Okay, folks, Andrew Bopros here. Well, I'm going to do a video. It's a little bit different. I know we're still reeling from the pain of losing the Chargers-Texans playoff game. As we all know, it didn't go the way we wanted to. But I want to talk about Chargers 2.0, and Jim Harbaugh and Joe Hortiz talked about this. I also want to recap last season and give you a little bit of a perspective on really what happened this season and how we really I think, produced and created a great culture for Chargers 2.0. So I'm going to get into that. I'm going to talk a little bit about what Joe Hortiz and Jim Harbaugh said. Could be an interesting video, guys. Plenty to talk about. As always, let's get into it. And as always, folks, like and subscribe if you do enjoy the content. I'm Andrew Bopros. So a lot to discuss, guys. Again, Joe Hortiz and Jim Harbaugh had a really, it was a very thoughtful, it was about a 45-minute discussion. You guys should check it out for sure if you have not watched the video. I'm just going to give you my general take and thoughts on it as well, too. So I'm going to start with this slide. I'm going to end with the slide. The interesting thing about this season, coming into this season, we were $30 million over the salary cap. Okay, $30 million. And this man right here had to work some magic with some dollars. And this man right here had to work with some magic with some players that probably weren't going to be the top tier players that they could put in these positions, right? So we were a little limited. Now, again, as we know, we lost Keenan Allen, Mike Williams because we couldn't afford them. They wanted to get paid more money. And we didn't pay them what they wanted to get paid. They walked. Now, remember, that's Justin Herbert's favorite targets, right? So that immediately is going to affect it. Remember my buddy, I remember so distinctly our first game of the year. He's like, man, I don't think the Chargers are going to be good. I said, why is that? And he said, well, you lost Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. And I remember thinking, from an outsider's perspective, he's like, dude, Herbert threw him the ball for 4 years in a row. Like, what do you expect? And I'm like, it's a really good point. And we saw that, didn't we, guys, right? Not having those two players on the field really affected Justin Herbert's ability to be successful. So you had a salary cap issue. You had Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. Clearly, Bosa was hurt. Yeah, he did well the second half of the season. Khalil Mack is a rock, as always. I mean, the guy's like third or fourth in the league in pressures in his last 2 years. It's absolutely incredible what he's been able to do at age 34. Hoping we get him signed back. But my point is, we had to do a lot with very little, right? And the fact that we got 11 wins, we should really pat ourselves on the back, folks. These two gentlemen right here should pat themselves on the back, especially this guy right here, for working some magic and getting value all year. Guys, our transaction videos, people we got picked up on waivers, had some of the highest views of most of our videos this season because they were constantly improving this team. And exactly what Jim Harbaugh always says, competitors welcome, right? I mean, I could go down the list, right? Puna Ford, Tier Tart, right? Elijah Molden, right? These are all players that I hope we get back. J.K. Dobbins, right? Gus Edwards here for another year. So there's a lot to be said. Again, now the thing is nice about this, again, we let Joey Bosa go and pay Trey Pipkins. We're going to have close to $100 million to spend this year. So this guy right here is going to cook, right? We're probably going to play Rashawn Slater. It's going to be big, but I do think we go out and get some other players and things like that. And we're going to talk more about that here in a second as well, too. But I just want to put that in perspective. A lot of people said rebuild year. I hated saying that. It's not a rebuild year. I always say rebuild year is when you don't have a quarterback, you have no talent on your team. Chargers have plenty of talent. We demonstrated that. We were great at certain games, and we lost in certain games as well, too. But the reality is we had the bones that we needed to be successful. We just didn't have enough depth on this team, and that's what Chargers 2.0 is going to be next year. With that much money, we can go out and get a big splash player. We can go out and get a wide receiver, or maybe another running back, maybe another guard, maybe a center, a veteran center, draft better again, and go from there. So again, a lot to hang our hats on as well too. This slide right here is going to say everything for the playoff game. I know we don't want to talk about it. I know we're like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about the playoff game, but it says a lot in perspective because a lot of people gave Justin Herbert heat. They were all over Justin Herbert. They were talking about how he was garbage, can't win the big game. Let me just show you this. Justin Herbert wasn't good for one game. Very true. I agree 100%. Right? Ryan DePaul says it perfectly. What else is true? The offensive line allowed 52 pressure rate. 50 hit 19 pressures. 19 pressures. 8 drops recorded. Okay. Again, 2 are picks, right off that. One through McConkey's hand, one hit Disley's hand, and almost was a pick 6. Every Charger outside of Ladd played one of the, if not the worst game of the season, quarter PFF, which is 100% true. So the offense, for whatever reason, did not show up at all in that playoff game. And this right here is the most damning situation. Now, again, I want to make this very clear. This is not, I don't want to beat the hell out of Quentin Johnson because he came off of one of his best games he's ever had prior to this, right? Almost 200 yards. He had a 1.8 EPA. That is terrible, guys. That's the 3rd worst EPA in target for any wide receiver in a playoff game this century that saw 5+ targets. He was 0 for 5. He had 5 dropped passes, guys. So, again, when we think about this game in general, the defense played great. The offense, for whatever reason, was just off. It just was off. And I remember, again, I was at the game, and we just sat there. I'm like, what the hell? We just can't do anything right. And we didn't put them away. We let them linger. And that one pass where, bad snap, he scrambled, threw that ball downfield, 40-yard pass. That was the turning point at that moment where it was like, this game is going to slip away. And it just did. It just did, guys. And that happens in the NFL. And unfortunately, it also shows that, again, as I talk about the money situation, losing people like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams affected the offense as well, too, right? I think we wouldn't have had the same problem if we had those guys on our team. So, again, who knows if they'd even be healthy at this point, right? But you never know. But my point is, you win as a team, you lose as a team. And right now, what lost us that game was the offense. And it wasn't just Justin Herbert. So make that very clear. Agree or disagree with me on that. Some thoughts ahead. But let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the Chargers 2.0 and what we have to think about moving forward. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, too. We're going to talk about this more on live. We are debating maybe potentially going live on some of these playoff games as well this weekend. We'll see if we're able to do it. But let's go into it a little bit here. Justin Herbert, again, I just want to reiterate the fact he's a top 10 quarterback. A lot of people gave him so much shade, so much heat, so much visceral anger towards Justin Herbert. The man can ball out. And again, Jim Harbaugh said the same thing. He said, look, dude, he's nails. He's incredible. He did everything he needed to do. And again, he fought through so much. Ankle injuries and just across the board, he was not 100% this entire season, and yet he still competed. He still went out and did what he needed to do. Again, bad day, but the entire offense was not good either. So you can't just blame it all 100% on Justin Herbert. So my point is, moving forward, Justin Herbert's amazing. He needs more weapons around him, and that's really the crux of Charger 2.0. You need consistency. You need better players, right? We didn't really have a number 1 tight end, right? Disley is really a blocking tight end. Hayden Hurst was supposed to be that. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't even able to be on the field ever. He was not the same after that first hit he took in the preseason game, dislocated his hip. The guy was just never right since. And really, we had up and down wide receiver play, except Ladd McConkey, of course. But, Josh Palmer was injured. Quentin Johnson was okay at times, not great at times as well. And the offensive line was a little bit, okay at times, not great at times. J.K. Dobbins was in and out of the lineup. Gus Edwards had an okay season, right? So my point is he needs some weapons around him. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, they're just going to draft heavy, offensive players this season. Joe Hortiz came out and said this 100%. He said, you cannot do that. You cannot draft that way. You have to draft the best available players and move forward. Because you can also build your team up in free agency, right? And right now, Joe Hortiz he got $100 million to spend. If we let Joe Bosa go, if we let Bosa go, we save like $30 million. And Pipkins is like $6 million. I do think they let Pipkins go, and I do think they let Bosa go. So then they can free up some more dollars available to spend in free agency. Go out and get a star offensive lineman, a star center, and then build more in the draft, right? I think that makes a big difference, right? And clearly these guys have an eye for talent. I mean, Ladd McConkey is a freaking stud muffin. Again, I didn't even think he'd be that good, but he's been absolutely incredible. So So my point is, one more draft, one more available dollars to go out and get maybe a T. Higgins or Godwin, some of these other wide receivers that can actually make a splash, maybe even bring Keenan Allen back, maybe even Mike Williams, who knows, right? But we'll see what they do and cook up in free agency. So my point is, you build the free agency, and then you get the best available players you can in the draft, and then you just go forward, right? And again, it doesn't matter who's the best defensive player, who's the best offensive player. You're going to get the best, right? Again, we're number one defense in the league as far as allowing points. We did a great job. Again, there was a couple of games we gave up a lot. Obviously, the Bucs and clearly the Texans, right? But Joe Ortiz is going to get the best, build better, competitors welcome across the board. And again, just understand in the draft, they are going to have a different board than other people. One of the good examples with that was that if they were not going to take, let's say Joel was not there at 5. Guess who they're going to take? They're going to take Brian Johnson or Brian Thomas. So Brian Thomas, who went to the Jags, had an amazing season. Is Brian Thomas? Am I saying that correctly? Anyways, correct me if I'm wrong in there. But the wide receiver for the Jags, I think he was a 3rd or 4th, right around Ladd in yardage given. And I thought he was incredible too. And he dropped way down the list. So my point is that list is going to be very different than other people's lists as well too. So just understand that in the draft. But we're going to build heavily in waivers and free agency this year. It's going to be pretty big, guys. It's going to be a pretty interesting offseason. This guy's going to cook, man. I'm excited to see. So again, 2.0, we got a nice bones. We got Joe Alt, we got Ladd McConkey. Can't say enough about Junior Colson. Did a great job when he was in there. But, Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart, right? I mean, we got plenty of good players on this team that could step up and do a great job. Let's talk about the offense and defense for a second, right? This guy right here, Jesse Minter, it looks like he's going to be our guy this next year. I thought he was going to be picked up. I mean, I'm not seeing anybody talk about him getting interviews for any head coaching roles anywhere else. So I think Jesse Minter's going to be our guy. And Jim Harbaugh and Hortiz said our coaching staff is coming back. I'm excited about that. I thought this guy was going to have an opportunity to move somewhere else. I mean, think about what he did, guys. Same defense, same player personnel that we had underneath Brandon Staley, BS. And literally, he went from one of the worst defenses of the NFL to one of the best. Absolutely incredible turnaround, all because of this guy. And they all bought in on him. So I think if he's first in the league again next year, guess what? This guy's going to get an opportunity. But I also think that Jesse Mitchell probably said, you know what? I'm not going to go anywhere this year. And I think good for him. Kudos for him. And I think that's really the family mentality that Jim Harbaugh has created that goes a long way with a lot of these coaches. So it's exciting to see he's most likely coming back this next season. So I'm excited for that. And then a lot of people are going to give Greg Roman a hard time. Myself included, I've been hypercritical of him as well. I think there were some things he could have done better. I think he abandoned the run early in some games. I think a good example would be the Texans. I think some of the play calling was a little vanilla. I think it was a lot to be said about that, right? I think we could be very hypercritical of Greg Roman. Having said that, I think he did some good things as well. You have to, if you're going to talk about the bad, you need to talk about the good. The good is we got much better the second half, saved the game against the the Texans. But my point is we did improve over the season with the team that we had. Where I get really excited is what if we had a star tight end and a star running back, right? J.K. Dobbins, we all know he's amazing when he's on the field. But if he can stay healthy for another season and we have a better offensive line and maybe a T. Higgins and we have Ladd McConkey, and then what if we get Keenan Allen back? Ooh, guys, that's all you need, guys. That would be all we need offensively, in my opinion, right? Just shore up the offensive line, get a couple of these guys. Guys, we got $100 million to spend. We can do it. We can do it. With just those changes, we would be incredible, right? So, draft a Scadaboo in the 4th or 5th round, right? Draft a few more of these running backs, draft another offensive lineman to just learn from some of these veterans. The offense is going to be on track. This guy knows how to sling the rock, right? Again, remember, he was dealing with injuries all season long, right? So, again, star tight end, star running back, better offensive line, 1 or 2 wide receivers. We're in the game, guys. We're in the game. Nobody's going to stop us at that point. We would be elite, just like the Bills and the Chiefs moving forward. But I just want to wrap up again. these two gentlemen were so positive, and they just said, look, like, the one thing that I do want to say that Jim Harbaugh said in this is that every single player improved. Now, you might say to yourself, well, Andrew, that's probably just the coach being nice about his players. And yeah, they were okay, but they didn't get better. I truly believe he thinks every player improved. This coaching staff is that good. They got the most out of the players they had. Hortiz got the most out of the dollars he had available to spend this season. Okay? Put that in perspective for a second, team, folks. It's very difficult to always be successful when especially if you're hampered by dollars. You know that's a big part of the problem. Brandon Staley and Tom Telesco did not do us any favors for these two gentlemen coming in here. The interesting thing is, well, too, and I'm going to say this last thing, because, again, my frustration with Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley, Jim Harbaugh said the previous administration drafted very well. They picked up great players. And, he didn't throw one on the bus. He didn't say, hey, look, these guys suck. Clearly, they knew what they were doing. But Chargers 2.0 means these guys have an opportunity to really just fix the gaps that they feel are there. Then you can run the offense the way you want. Then you can run the defense the way you want. Then you can actually be the dominant team that you want to be. I am so excited for next season. The interesting thing about the schedule is most of the schedule for next season, all of the hard teams that we play playoff-wise are at home. So our hardest teams that we play are actually going to be at home, at least from what I'm understanding. So we'll talk more about that as well, too. So, guys, sky's the limit. It's a great season. Great start for the Harbaugh era. Great start for the Hortiz era. I cannot be more excited about this team. I know that loss was difficult. It was tough. But it also illustrated the fact that we were down some personnel. We were down some explosive players, right? And you need 2 wide receivers. You need 3. You need a star running back. You need a better offensive line. You need a tight end that can actually catch the ball consistently, right? There's a lot to be said about that. But again, $100 million if we let Joey Bosa walk, we can go get some good players, guys. And I'm excited to see what we do. So, as always, Andrew Bull Bros. See you guys in the next one.
Hey, what's up? Cameron Dick here watching Bolt Bros podcast. Let's go.
Charged up, Bolt Bros on the night.